named Taj. Now, he is an inventor, entrepreneur, educational pioneer with a passion for inspiring kids in digital technology. He also happens to still be in high school, so I'm feeling very much like an underachiever right now. He tells me he's just finished his final assessment today, so he's come from doing his Spanish exam. In 14 days he finishes high school, and then next year he's off to New York to grow his business. So he was the winner of the Australian Young Innovator of the Year in 2014. And when he's not at school or working on his ventures, the first one of which he started when he was 11, he divides his time between tennis, martial arts and travelling. Taj, you back there?
Morning.
Hey, welcome Taj.
Thank you. Alrighty. First of all, good morning. How are we? Bit more energy. It's 3:45 at the end of a conference. How are we? Fantastic. Alrighty. Great to see some students here. One of my favourite quotes is from a man with the name of Tom Bodett. He says, "The difference between school and life? Well, in school, we're taught a lesson, then given a test. In life, we're given a test that teaches us a lesson." Here's a thought. The average 4-year-old asks 100 questions per day. Most kindergarten students think of themselves as artists. What changes? Well, as students, when we well and truly get stuck, or may even say trapped in our current education system, we come to understand that it's more important to have the right answer than to ask a creative and unique question. We begin to believe that we're at school to merely absorb information rather than to create and to apply it. Now, I'd like to invite each and every one of you back to when you were an 8-year-old. You were in your favourite place doing your favourite thing. For me, I was in my bedroom, blue walls covered in world maps, and all around me, on the floor, was stacks and stacks of Lego. I loved it. It allowed me to create, it allowed me to build things. But most importantly, it allowed me to experiment. There was no right or wrong way of doing it. Now, back in primary school, though, there was most definitely a right and wrong way of doing it. And I picked the wrong way. You see, when the teacher asked me to, say, paint a picture, I'd be painting the walls. When the teacher asked me to, say, draw a picture, I'd be snapping and throwing the pencils. And when the teacher asked me to, say, be quiet in an assembly or an exam, I'd make these weird humming sounds. Got a crazy kick out of it, but the teachers never knew where I was coming from. Now, all good things must come to an end, and within a few years spell, I'd been suspended 3 times in fact, wasn't hugely academically focused, and wasn't a huge sports boy either. And according to my teachers, had clear learning difficulties. I visited occupational therapists, I visited speech therapists. Nothing worked. Getting something out of me was like punching blood out of a stone. Impossible. Now, I love technology, though, and was truly inspired by people like Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs. I used to wake up at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to watch these amazing people launch their products that would one day change the world. So I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I want to change the world as well. Now, I was 11, and to be completely honest, had no real clue as to how I, as an 11-year-old, was going to change the world. So as the tech generation, I Googled it, and a whole heap of results came up. Things like plant a garden, donate blood, save humanity, and then become an entrepreneur. I was like, alrighty, well, I'm not legally allowed to donate blood. What's planting a garden going to do? What does saving humanity even mean? And what's that funny word? Fast forward a couple of months, I started my very first business, a tech blog for kids, by kids. Super simple, and within the first few months, we were getting over 100,000 hits per day, $10 per day from advertisements. And at the age of 11, I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. At the age of 13, I was introduced to Tony Robbins. Could I get an indication of how many people have heard of Tony Robbins? Fantastic, that's quite a few of you. So for those who don't, he's a peak performance strategist. So not a motivator, not a performer. He gets you in peak state. He teaches you how to get in peak state, and went to one of his seminars at the age of 13. And at first I was like, no way. If people who know about Tony Robbins, he does the firewalking, the board breaking, all of that sort of ridiculous shit. And I was like, wow, you know what, I'm 13. Do you really, to my parents, do you really want your only son walking across fire and breaking boards? Now, they said yes, dragged me along to Sydney, and after walking across fire, the things I thought were impossible became completely fucking possible. And I went from the suspended schoolboy to budding educational pioneer. At the age of 13, in fact, at the age of 13, a few months after the conference, I started 56 Creations, which was a combination of my two childhood passions, my love for Lego and my love for ICT. The result was the Lego for the 21st century. Kids build their very own tablets, as easy as a puzzle, as fun as a computer game, inspiring a generation of creators, not just consumers. To date, we've educated over 43,000 kids in both privileged and underprivileged communities around the world, and have set a goal of educating 1 million kids by 2020. So I'm 17 years old, starting my final year of high school, and the gaps between my traditional education and things that we need to know to succeed outside of the classroom have been pretty clear. And what I wanted to discuss with you all today are three things. Three things on how we together as educators, as young people, as teachers can prepare our young people for the challenges they will face in today's innovation economy. Number one is digital literacy. According to the Foundation for Young Australians, the need for digital literacy skills have increased by over 212% over the past 3 years. When I heard that, I was like, wow, shit, that's kind of crazy, because I don't believe a lot of young people are indeed digitally literate. Yes, we know how to use a computer. Yes, we know how to use a phone. But do we know what's inside it? Do we know how to build it? Do we know how to create it? In more cases than not, the answer is no, and I think skills like this are fundamental for growth and development in this day and age. Number two is creative problem solving. As Dr. Seuss once said, why fit in when you were born to stand out? Or in simple terms, be a Fruit Loop in a world full of Weet-Bix. I think creative problem solving, creativity, entrepreneurship, critical thinking, being able to create, not just consume, is so important. We're seeing the jobs of the future requiring enterprising skills and applicants' ability to communicate their ideas, convey their ideas. And these skills are things I think all young people should be learning in the classroom. Finally, number three. Number three is business camp. We have music camp, we have soccer camp, we have basketball camp. But why not business camp? A camp where we go out and get kids to sell shit for a couple of days. It does not matter what they sell. It does not matter how much they make. What matters is that constant iteration process, trialing, then failing. Jan Owen, the CEO of the Foundation for Young Australians, introduced me to a term called flearning, failing while simultaneously learning. There's nothing wrong with failure. What matters is the fact that we embrace it, we learn from it, and take the opportunity to reflect on it. Learning, failing, can be one of the most fundamental learning opportunities for anyone. With that said, I'd like to leave you with one final quote today. As Albert Einstein once said, true intelligence is not about knowledge, but imagination. Thank you.
Thanks, Raj. That was awesome.